Hello, friends and fans of horror. I'm Barb, and I'm joined today with Joe Lewis, co-host of Bonehead Weekly, who has done plenty of movie reviews himself. And if you don't know that channel yet, you're kind of missing out. So you should probably check it out on YouTube and all of the podcast platforms, right, Joe?
We're on most podcast platforms. Come check out Bonehead Weekly. You can
Yes.
Google it on the Googles. But I have a question for you. What the hell is above your head?
Oh, that is a zombie, black and white zombie,
Black
and
and white
and
zombie.
skulls over there. Hmm.
Yes, of those of the men who did you wrong?
Yes, of course they are.
Or are they the men who did you
I am
right?
not to be tampered with.
I'm sticking with the ones who did you right.
Yes, that sounds even better. So,
So thanks for
everyone,
having me.
yes, go right ahead.
No, thanks for having me on. Thank you for letting me pop this cherry on your first show.
Thank you. Yes, it's the debut of the channel, and it's going to be featuring movie reviews and deep dives into both popular movies and, of course, the movies that tanked at the box office. So, the
Yeah.
movie that we're talking about today would be the 2009 Friday the 13th reboot starring Derek Mears as the Jason, my favorite Jason. So,
So why? Okay, by the way, Derek Mears is a really nice guy. I have met Derek.
okay,
He's very funny and a good friend to Todd Farmer, who is a good friend of our show, who
cool.
wrote Jason 10.
Good segue. Hmm.
You're welcome. You're
Thank you.
welcome. I just don't understand why he's your favorite and you like this movie so
Okay,
much.
you have just opened it up for me to discuss my favorite Jason. So
I
now
know it's
he
like I've been
is
doing this shit for a while.
he's part of the
Sorry.
top three. So there's Richard Brooker
Yeah, met him
and
once.
Ted White, and
Yep.
of course, so I guess I could say he's part of my top three. Richard Brooker is kind of hard to top for me just because that just menacing
Is he
kind of
part
feel to
four?
it. No, he was part three, and I
Oh,
believe Ted White was part four. Yes,
I
if
I
I'm
get
not
them
mistaken.
confused.
I
I
know there
don't
are
know. I
so
don't.
many of them.
There is a ton of them, and the only one most people remember, nothing against any of them,
Kane, right?
yeah, is
Yeah.
Kane and
Hmm.
Derek. And Derek went on to do a lot of different cool shows. He's even in Swamp Thing, but I mean, most people, if they're into the kind of the know, they kind of know Kane is, and they kind of just always think of him as, I don't know, that's just
Well,
me.
I do think Kane is probably the most brutal, and I think that's why because he does the that hulking like breathe in, breathe out, and I think
Hmm.
fans really were drawn to that because he added a little bit more to the character that wasn't previously there.
That's because there's nothing to the character.
Oh, yes, everyone, I forgot to tell you that I am sitting here with a very harsh critic of the franchise.
I
So I thought,
don't, I don't, I don't see myself as harsh. There's nothing to the character. There's nothing to Michael. I like Halloween, but there's nothing to Michael Myers. He's just pure evil. It's only
he's a
till Rob
shape.
Zombie came along. He's a
Hmm.
shape. He's a
Hmm.
representation of. There's two different horror stories. The evil's here. The evil's out there.
Yeah,
He's just the embodiment of the evils out there.
that's true. Yeah. Well, Jason, so this particular Jason, I think the reason why he's one of my top is because he's more of like I don't want to say more of a survivalist, but he's out there setting traps and there's just more to it than just stabby stabby. You know what I mean?
So, quick, if you don't mind me saying
Go ahead.
something real quick,
Hmm.
a quick story. Before this started, Barbara pitched this idea. I said, love to be the first guest. I really appreciate it. And you'll be really excited when you hear who the next two are, which is great. And they're much better than me. But she was like, I want to talk about this movie. And I was like, why? And she goes, because it's better than what people say it is. And
It
I saw it in
is.
the theater when it came out. I am actually the director, Marcus Nispel, directed Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the reboot, which actually I think two-thirds of it works really well, but I hadn't seen it in a long time. And I went back and I just remember the script being awful, not caring for this movie. I will give it one compliment. the out of my memory, which is that at least it's not boring like the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot. So Barb's texting me, I call her Barbara, is texting me at night going, "Are you ready? I've got X, Y, and Z points," because she's extremely organized and knows exactly what she's going to do and doesn't walk into this like some sort of amateur. And I responded back to her, and Barbara, please correct me if I got any of this wrong. You don't have to worry about me, Slick.
Flick.
Slick.
That's how I knew I mistakes had been made.
So I had a busy week. In my busy week, I took time to go back and rewatch most of this turd.
Oh, you did. You didn't
Oh
tell me you
yeah.
rewatched it.
No, because this is supposed to be exciting for the audience. You don't
Okay.
kill it all in pre-interview. So slick. I rewatched it and I thought it still sucks.
Okay.
However, it's not as bad as I remember in parts.
Okay. Sometimes on
It's
the
a
second viewing, right?
Well, okay. So I'm not a big, she's right. I don't particularly care for any of these Friday the 13th films. The only one I kind of find fun is Jason Tennant, and that's the one everybody hates. And a friend of mine wrote it,
I
but
love it.
we didn't become friends till after I mean, I already loved the movie beforehand. It's not a great film, but it takes it to a place where I think it's funny and slightly different. These have always been a rip off of other movies. I mean, it's literally called Friday the 13th because the other movie was Halloween. It was ripping it off. I was in the room when Victor Miller, in front of a live studio audience at the first Scare Fest, talked about how he actually just went back and watched Halloween and just ripped it off. That's it.
That's
That's
honest.
true.
Hmm.
It's honest. But I appreciate that. That being said, when I went back to rewatch the reboot, couple of things. It looks much better than I remember it. It's very well shot. The actual DP of this, and sorry, Barbara, you didn't tell me to do this,
No,
but
go for
this is
it.
what I do, was Daniel Pearl. Now, Daniel Pearl is famous because he shot the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then he actually was Marcus Nispel's DP on the reboot of Texas Chainsaw. It made
And
big news for
and for
film
fans that
geeks.
don't know, what is DP? What's DP?
Director of photography, the cinematographer. And the movie looks great. And Daniel Pearl is a well-known, renowned cinematographer, director of photography. So it does look good, and the production quality on this is pretty good. My big problem still, some of the kills could be a little more. My big problem still is there's just nobody to care about. And on top of that, because you have no one to care about, the dialogue is just bad. However, the structure of the movie and the shooting, I actually appreciate. I like that it's basically the first three movies.
I like that you went back and watched it and liked it the second time because that's happened to me before
I
with
didn't say
movies.
that. I said I
Liked it
appreciated more
better.
of it.
Okay, you
I
have more
liked it
appreciation.
slightly. It was I did I forgot that it looked good, and
It does look good.
I appreciated that it's basically a reboot of one, two, and three.
Yeah. And a little bit of four as well. So, and I was gonna say too, with six, I know it doesn't say this out there on the Googles, as you say, but I think
On
it
the
kind of
Googles.
pulls from six as well because
In
six
what
was
way?
Jason Kills. So he's more, they show
It's
him
Jason
more as,
Lives.
or I'm sorry, Jason Lives. Thank you for the correction. So he has like that hunter knife on his belt. Shut up, Joe. So he has
You're
that
such a
hunter.
fan. The guy that shits on it
I
has
was
to come
thinking, you
correct.
know, I have to be honest and say I was simultaneously thinking Jason Lives and Halloween Kills. It's very bad. Mixing up my franchises here. But
That's okay.
so he's
They
wearing a
both suck.
belt. He's wearing a belt in the woods and he has, that hunter's knife on him, and which is something that we hadn't seen before
Yeah.
the sixth one. So I was like, wow, he's more of this hunter kind of survivalist Jason, which I feel like they kind of pulled from that a little bit too for this reboot. And that's the beauty of the reboot is that it's just like a melting pot of all of these older ones that had come before it.
No, that's interesting. I kind of liked parts of it. I didn't pick up on the hunter knife and the reference to, and I bet there's a ton of other things in there that if we had somebody here who really loved the franchise and just didn't piss on it every time like I do.
Well, do you remember the second one too, the guy in the wheelchair that got it? Okay,
Yeah,
so there is an Easter egg. Ah, I forgot to tell people that there's gonna be spoilers in this, but hello. Okay, if you've gotten
I
this
think
far,
they've already
probably
seen it.
shouldn't. It's
Actually, I
15
don't
years
remember.
old, so
I don't remember it. Explain it to me. What
the
happens to the
wheel
one in the wheelchair?
the wheelchair.
It's
Oh, he's just
been a
like at
long
the top of
time.
the stairs and he gets the machete to the face. But um they kind of did an Easter egg in the 2009 reboot where they were kind of showing down in that tunnel how he's got the wheelchair off to the side, of course, the sweater that which is supposed to be reminiscent of, the mother with her sweater. But there was just little Easter eggs in it, which I am a huge fan of Easter eggs. I know some people are like, the fan giving
Fan
giving the
service.
giving the fan service but I love that. I
I
always look for those
I
things.
I love it. I don't like it when they shoehorn it in for no good reason.
Okay.
And the review I did for Alien Romulus on Scarefest, I had to cut down. And unfortunately, I have to cut down most of my reviews because I only get up 4 minutes roughly. So I try to get it right around four because I have no desire to edit. You know this about me. I don't want to produce my own show.
Right.
But that one I went a little over because I was using an example of a movie I really enjoy that has a ton of fan service, the Ghostbusters and the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And there's a couple of fan service things in there that just drove me bonkers. And I love Ghostbusters much less, and I love Alien too. But sometimes it's just shoehorned in. It is just you pause the movie to say, "Ooh, look at this."
Absolutely.
You kind of have to follow your own story. If it makes sense, which I think it makes sense, back to Friday the 13th, the 2009 reboot, I think it makes a lot of sense to basically tell the first three movies really in the first 40 minutes, 30 minutes. Well, actually,
Sure.
I mean, I know you watched it the other day, but I forgot that the actual title card doesn't come up till minute 21, 22.
Right. Yeah, it
So
does. Yeah,
almost the first 20 minutes is just a prologue of the first three movies. Well, actually a little past because well the first two until he gets the mask.
absolutely. And I thought that transition was pretty good too. Like as they're showing him, okay, he's which I
Mhm.
thought he they made his much better than Potato Sack Head Jason from, from the
Yeah.
original second one, that everyone likes to call affectionately Potato Sack Head. But I thought they did it better in the reboot because it was almost like a mummy, a mummified head
And
in a way,
it makes a little more sense too
for
of him
sure.
getting the actual hockey mask and that stuff makes sense. My problem with it's just I know it's based on a franchise that never had an interesting character all the way through it. I mean, probably the most interesting character, and I went back and tried to rewatch it when I had COVID back in early spring, was the seventh one, the psychic
Okay.
one. The first one Kane's in,
Right.
and I didn't make it through it.
That's
I
okay.
had
I'm
to
gonna
turn
be
it off.
honest with you. Seven, eight, and nine are probably my least favorites. And five being one that does not really have Jason in it. I can watch that better than I can seven, eight, and nine. But I will say there's a kill in seven that they paid homage to in this one, and that's the sleeping bag kill,
Yeah.
which was
Okay.
my favorite of the kills was I was just like, good God.
Don't
They
you
just
think it's a
cranked it up a notch.
don't you think it's a funny thing that we're sitting here actually using the phrase? Well, I'm not. Actually, you've said it. My
What's that?
favorite
I
kill.
know. Well, yeah, I separate it from real life.
Oh, it's not even that. It's just more of unfortunately, I think a lot of these movies were you just kill somebody every 5 to 10 minutes, and that was kind of the formula. It's kind of the Roger Corman formula of you got to have X amount of kills. I'll let you have complete autonomy as long as you have X amount of kills, X amount of set of bare breasts, and X amount of blood.
I
And
bet
you
that
have to
was a
have it,
thing in the 80s, for sure. This is my
Barbara.
formula.
That was I'm not making up that
Oh,
that's an actual true Roger Corman formula
oh, wow.
from
Okay.
the 70s on.
That's interesting.
The six well from the time he could show breasts. Yeah,
Okay.
that was the no, there's a famous B movie, actually a Z movie director who said the cheapest special effect ever created, and please forgive me, were tits.
Well, back then. I don't want to say it like this, but back then,
That's
everything
where
was
you got to see him.
natural too. Everything was au natural. I don't
And
know.
that's
I
where you got
think
to see them. That's where, I mean, there was Mac. I mean, I'm assuming they weren't as readily available. Well, they're not. I still haven't seen any, but hoping one day, God willing, and the creek don't rise, I'll be able to see a naked, maybe. You never know. You
well,
never know.
in the 2009 one, honestly, I wasn't sure if they would even show that just because a lot has changed. But they
Right. But
did.
they
They did
did.
go there. They kept that charm, if you will, from that. And the
There's charm in
I
that.
don't know.
Well, you're the lady. You tell
And
me. Is there
and the
charm in it?
guy, well, it just, even as a woman, I could say it's kind of the nostalgic from the 80s that was
Yeah.
left in, and it wasn't prudish to say. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
It wasn't prudish
Or
and
sexist.
or sexist, and well,
Probably was
the
sexist.
same maybe, but it's nostalgic. And then the guy that's, oh my gosh, I found all this marijuana that's out in this on the land. And so I mean that and the drinking, it was just all of the tropes that you would hope to see
Yeah,
in a
they're
Friday
looking
the
for
13th.
drugs. Yeah, they're looking for drugs. And then it's 25 minutes into the movie before we see and I forgive me, I've stole this from my colleague James Thomas before Jared Paddle Duck even shows up.
Paddlecky, aren't you paddle duck?
George, yeah.
Oh, I'll have to tease James about that one.
And I love Supernatural, but Jared Paddle Duck has always been the smell of fart kind of acting.
Well, so as far as the kills go, what was the one that
That's
stood
me
out to you?
emoting. As far as the
Moting.
kills, I
Yeah.
actually trying to catch up with a lot of it. There's not a ton of things. I think it's pretty brutal when he's trying to drag him under, but it's not as brutal as I thought it was
Oh,
bloodier than it is. In fact, the Texas Chainsaw that came out in 2000, 2001, that Marcus Nispel also directed, or 2002, whatever it was,
2003?
is
Okay.
yeah, is much more brutal than his Friday the 13th. Go
Oh, for
back.
sure.
Much more brutal.
Like the
This
Kemper
one
kill was just it kind of you were
or
taken
the
aback.
opening
Yeah.
or the opening scene in the Texas Chainsaw reboot where she removes the pistol, the lady who shoots herself.
Oh man. Why that's so hard to watch every time. Like, oh, where did
There's
that come
nothing,
from?
right. There's nothing in the there's nothing in this one that's that brutal, do you think?
No, no, probably not. No,
And
Texas Chainsaw always takes it to another level though, doesn't it?
yeah, well, that they did a pretty good, they got the first two-thirds of that one correct. And I know I get shit all the time from Scarefest about them not, but it's true. Most movies don't stick to the landing.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. And that one is a little, it's not as bad as the ending of this one. You have to admit the '09 reboot ending's pretty bad.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the ending kind of ticked me off a little bit because I was like, I was expecting something a little bit more from that. And
They
but
just kind of
but
leave him there.
but the other thing too, like, why did you put him in the water? You
That's
don't
what I'm
just want to
saying.
like call another cop out there and like get this taken care of the normal way? What do you guys think?
Well,
You're Dexter now?
the true what ha ha ha. Truthfully though, people make fun of horror films because they of tropes and stupid things that characters
Oh
do.
my
And
gosh,
that
yeah.
is such an idiotic thing that has been made up fun of 30 years before that movie came out. I don't know. It looks to me, and I've never got to interview the director. I'd love to. We're friends on social media. But I would imagine that that's a reshoot.
You
That
think
there
so?
was either I would
Yeah.
imagine, but I don't know.
Well,
It
now I'm
just
gonna
doesn't go
look.
with the rest. It doesn't go
Yeah.
with the rest of the movie. And I gave you all the other information. I mean, did I have to do all the
Oh,
research?
for gosh sake. No, but I will say I'll plan on going to look that up because now I want to see if there was an alternate ending. Curious
Oh,
now.
I'm sure they shot two or three, but
Yeah.
that to me looks like one of those endings that was shot 6 months later after test audiences hated the other one.
Oh,
But
maybe. But
I truthfully don't know. And if I do know, I have forgotten. It just, that's what it looks like to me.
right.
It makes no sense. But the movie's pretty. He's okay as Jason, and it's better made than I remember. It's not boring
Okay, that's fair. It's not
because
boring. Like you said, it is shot well. I thought that, oh, here's another kill that I thought was reminiscent of Is it am I thinking of the right one? Silent Night, Deadly Night? Up
We're
on the ant.
up on the antlers. Yeah,
Yeah.
Leanna Quigley.
Oh,
Linnea. I
yes,
said
that
Leanna.
I
That's
always
Linnea
say
Quigley.
Leanna. I have to correct myself. I want to call her Leanna so
It's
badly.
Linnea. And that, by the way,
Yeah.
Linnea, not, I hate doing this. Watch your
What?
toes. I've met Linnea. She is, she is wonderful. Little
Oh,
quirky, but no one I've ever met was more excited to sell pictures of her bare breasts and sign them.
hey, she should be proud of those.
She's still a very lovely person who is very funny and quirky and should still be proud of those. I totally agree. And she is. She
Well,
is.
I did get to interview her on Scarefest TV. She kind of came in towards the end of it was a
Yeah.
delayed thing. Remember, it was like the last 10 or
Hmm.
15 minutes or something. But
Did you like her?
yeah, I liked her. I liked her. It would have been nice to have more time with her on there, but you take what you can
I
get sometimes, right?
Yeah, she was on a panel for Return of the Living Dead a couple of years ago at Scarefest, and I didn't get to spend as much time as I did
Oh,
years before that when I was just a fan and she just kept talking to me.
okay. Was
So
it?
that's the reason why I go out of my way right then to tell you that she's wonderful if you're going to a convention. I spent more time with her as a fan going up to pay, which I haven't done in
Oh,
years, than
okay.
I got to actually having her on a panel interview. Yeah, she
What
was
was it? Do you
fantastic.
remember what the panel was? Not to get off
Yeah,
topic, but do you remember?
well, it was before you joined the Scarefest family. We actually had a full Return of the Living Dead for Clue. It might
Oh,
have been
that would have been cool to see.
I well, I think I don't know if it was Clue Gallagher's last show, but it was definitely a year or two before he passed.
Okay.
But he couldn't do the panel; he lost his voice,
Okay. Oh,
and
that's
because
unfortunate.
I know because of the air conditioning, and he had tons of stories, and he took the time that Sunday. Tom Matthews, who's also in Return of the Living Dead, and Jason Lives, correct?
Yep.
Part six, Friday the 13th, part six,
Are you quizzing
actually
me?
said, yeah, yeah, I'm just giving
Yes.
you a hard time. I'm just going, don't worry about me, Slick.
Ah.
You push record and roll. I'll be
All
there.
right.
Anyway, so he was wonderful about walking me up because I didn't get a chance to get Clue, and thank God to sign my Return of the Living Dead that's right behind me, right here to right over my shoulder. Tom said, "You better grab Clue. He's going to the cart." I didn't know he was going to pass away. I mean, he was in his 90s, but I
Oh.
didn't know. And I said, "Well, I don't want to." He goes, "No, no, he'll enjoy it." And he actually, Tom walked me up and then asked Clue if he'd sign it. And then Clue talked to me about, I wish I could have done it. We talked about some quick stories before he was actually getting in the transportation to leave. So I'm just saying, some of these folks that I've met who are in some of these movies that I may not, I love Return of the Living Dead, but some of these days are wonderful people
You get
and
to
actually
meet a
care
lot of
about their
really cool
fans.
ones too, and find out all the behind the scenes type of stuff. Not even just at on Bonehead, but at Scarefest in general too, with the panels. So,
Oh yeah, yeah, it's
but
been fun. It's been great. But back to your Friday the 13th, I still don't know that I understand why this isn't your favorite, but why do you like it so much?
it was well, you were mentioning before about Whitney's boyfriend, how he's getting pulled down through the floor.
Yeah,
That was those kind of moments. That was actually scary. There's cheesiness to some of the 80s installments,
yeah,
but this one had less of that and more of that gritty,
more
scare the
intense.
pants off of you. Yeah, it was intense. It was suspenseful. So, I mean, my toes were curled. So, at that scene, I don't know that it was just, I felt like the movie overall had that get you on the edge of your seat kind of feel to it
Yeah,
that I hadn't seen in a while, and it had the same grittiness pretty much as something like Halloween Kills, or maybe even go back to some of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is meaner, but this Jason was pretty mean.
yeah, he is. He is. He
So,
is. I wonder once again, it's the same studio, Platinum Dunes. It's Michael Bay who gave us the wonderful Transformer films. He launched in the late or late 90s, early 2000s, his own production company. It's called Platinum Dunes. And they started, that was their job, is they were going to remake classic horror. And they started with Texas Chainsaw, which turned out to be a fairly big movie. And Marcus Nispel, who directed that version, like I said, would go on and do another movie called Pathfinder right after that. Now, the reason you probably don't remember that is because it crashed and burned. And then as he's trying to get back into, I'm assuming, the good graces of the studio, he did this movie. And I've often wondered, and I'd love to interview him, how much this version was tampered with and uh, how much did he have to adapt
Well,
to
as we know from Todd Farmer talking about things too,
yeah,
things get altered so much more so than I even thought, as
new, yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
one of the
you
I've
oh, go
known
ahead.
this for years. No, I'm so sorry, but I've known this for years, but I don't know that I've known it since, especially doing Bonehead and getting to do the long interviews with so many, especially writers, is sometimes going, oh my God, because I was thinking that, oh my God, this script sucks. Sometimes blaming the screenwriters who actually eventually got credit through arbitration
Oh,
for the screenplay of that movie, it might as well just be yelling at the key grip. That's how
I
much they had to do
know.
with the creative of what the actual decision of what went on screen was.
I honestly didn't know that until watching some of your old episodes on Bonehead. I didn't even know
Yeah.
that until hearing like some of your speaking with directors and finding out like, oh, it started off as this and now it's like this. Once you finish up and see that final product, sometimes it doesn't really look anything like what it started. It's been played around with so
Oh,
much and altered and
yeah, there's
modified.
some, yeah, absolutely. It is what I was going to say is, and my computer was acting up a little bit. What I was going to say is sometimes it just changes completely. Another interesting fact about this, Barbara, and I don't know if you were going to talk about it, and if you were, I'm so sorry. But the two of the credited screenwriters for this, and I'm also curious how much of their input was actually in it, was Damian Swift or Damian Shannon and Mark Swift. And if you don't know who they are, that's okay. I don't expect you to. But they actually wrote Freddy versus Jason.
I saw that when I was doing a little bit of research myself. I did see that. And they had started off wanting it to be an origin story and then decided to make it that melting pot where it involved more, which I'm so glad they did. I'm really glad.
Yeah, because I don't know that you need another origin story
No,
like Spider-Man. Not to compare Jason and
right,
Spider-Man, but it's true. I think we
right.
all know he got bit by some sort of spider.
S-
That was
s-
with the Tom Holland movies I appreciated Spider-Man Homecoming is they did not bother to tell me how he became Spider-Man one more time. We all know. Thank you very much. Just roll on. He's
Well, and
Spider-Man.
so it was intentional that they didn't go back and show more of like his childhood or anything too. What did you think about
Hmm.
the final girl? So that was the last part that I wanted to say before we wrapped it up was the final girl, Whitney. I feel like
Yeah.
she could be added to the Scream Queen Hall of Fame in a manner of speaking because she was so good. I believed
She's
her. It wasn't annoying.
well, she's not annoying,
No.
but I don't. They made her sympathetic. She's sympathetic to Jared Paddle Duck's character who's lost.
Oh
It's not his sister, it's the
God.
one that's helping him find his sister, right?
Oh, right. Yes.
I'm
Yes.
just trying to
The
remember
other,
the two
no, no.
girls.
Well, yeah, Whitney is his sister.
Yeah.
The other one that met her demise, she would have been his girlfriend, I think.
Oh,
You
because
know,
he's taking her from the rich
if
asshole
that had
who's talking about the lady who's on top of him who has the amazing breasts.
Oh, he
Only
was
he
such a
says it.
D-bag. He was
Yes, but
terrible.
that's my whole point. They're just cardboard cutout
Well,
people.
the not all the characters were bad though. There were two or three that were like, okay, I hope they don't get killed. But then there were the throwaway, I always call them the throwaway characters. You need those
Yeah.
in a horror movie. So,
Star Trek had
but
the red shirts.
that's right. You have to have some
Nobody, yeah, they had the red shirts. They
throwaways.
weren't making it back. They weren't making it back. You
So
should talk to, if you happen to have a friend of mine who loves Star Trek on the show, you should talk to him about the red shirts.
at the end of the day, how would you rate it? Like if you were rating it out of five
Uh,
stars,
uh, uh,
recommend it
uh,
to horror fans.
2.5. It's
Okay.
higher than I would have. It's an average movie. It's just. The execution's not bad as I remember it. It's
That's
not
fair.
anything to remember. It's clearly through one ear and out the other, or through one eye and out the other. But it's just not as bad as I remember. I think I've shit on it for so many years and went back to watch it preparing for this. First of all, I could fast forward it through some of it. It was just a little tedious. But that being said, it just is. It's not, that I've never been able to go back and rewatch the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot. It's so boring.
Oh,
It's
I
so
did
bad.
rewatch it, and so for the first little bit of it, I was like, I don't know why people hated this. This is actually pretty good. And then they
And
get
it just
into
goes
his
to pot.
backstory, and I was like, no, why would you? Which, I could put that probably for another talking about reboots. I could do another episode of that one in particular. I know exactly who I would have on for that one.
Yeah.
Joanna, who
Oh,
loves
man.
Freddie.
I mean, if
So
it's not me, I don't know why we would tune in, but okay.
So, but thank you, Joe, for helping me along
No,
with this
thank
this
you.
debut episode. Um,
You did a great job.
oh, thank you,
You
and
did. You let me talk. That's all you needed to. I'm sorry, I'm being a smart ass. If you
sorry,
don't
ants.
know, if you're watching this for the time, Barbara and I are friends, so I do appreciate
Yes,
you
he
letting me
likes.
be the one.
Oh my gosh, thank you for helping me with it. So, but yeah,
No help at all.
so we'll wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you'll tune in for the next episode, whatever that may be. Good night, Joe.
Toodles. Peace out. Subscribe to Bonehead Weekly.